Hey everyone, welcome to the Mindset Playground, where you're going to get your daily dose of positivity. And I'm your host, Luann Hunt. Thank you for stopping by and listening to stories that inspire. Let's get started. And I'm so excited that you're here today because I have a great show for you. So, today I'm going to be talking to a brand new author, and her name is Elyse, and she's going to talk to us about her book, which I am sure so many people will be able to relate to. So, Elyse, thank you for taking this time to come with me on the playground today. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you so much, Luann, for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. I met you in a mutual community that we're both in, and I just loved your story. I went right away online actually to Amazon to check out your book because you said that you had just published a book. And I went online to check it out, and it's a great book. Now, I don't have my copy yet, but I did read your background and the background of the story. But I'm so excited to actually get to talk to you, the author. So, can you give us kind of just the Cole's notes of what the book is about, and then we'll dive into it?
Absolutely. What it's really about is how, a lot of times people have labels that they place on, especially kids, uh, the pretty one, the smart one, the sporty one. I grew up in a family with basically with three children, and each one of us had our own little labels that were put on us. And over time, those labels really stuck, and you don't realize how much they stick until you get older. And they come out in different areas, I think. And over time, those labels had different meanings for each one of us. And all throughout the years, I thought I was really the black sheep of the family, but it was really me separating myself from those labels. And I've become a very fierce advocate over the years. And everyone always said to me, "How did you get this way?" And so it's really a story of going from the person that hid behind the label and the t-shirt and became the person that really beat the drum for everybody in my life and beyond my life, even for perfect strangers generally.
Wow, that's so cool. And so, the title of your book,
Beyond the t-shirt.
what a great title. So, just kind of give the listeners just a flair or a taste of what the whole message is about the t-shirt.
So it's interesting because what I'm finding is that most people that see the title and read the just the beginning part, they resonate because so many people put a t-shirt over their bathing suits when they were younger. It was very common to hide your body under a t-shirt. So when I would go into the pool, I would wear a t-shirt over my bathing suit because I was not the perfect body. And, I think at the beginning it was something that I was told to do. And then it just became a habit. And to this day, I just went on a vacation with my best friend and I said, no pictures in a bathing suit. That is not something I will do. And it's just something that stuck with me. And it's so interesting. I just had a 77-year-old woman say to me, I wore a white t-shirt over a bathing suit. And I said, it goes back that far? And she said, yes, absolutely. She said, I was told that I was too big and I had to wear a t-shirt over my bathing suit. So that's really the premise behind this book. It's that hiding under that t-shirt. And I didn't realize the impact it had on me until much later in life. But it really does symbolize that going beyond, right? And moving past that, what that t-shirt symbolizes. And it took many years of therapy and many years of talking about it. But I've had such an outpouring of mostly women, but a lot of people saying to me, I hid behind that for a long time. And I'm really glad you're putting it on paper and out there because I really resonate with it.
So, what made you decide to write a book about it? Have you always wanted to be an author?
Not really. It was not on my, as my daughter would say, bingo card for the year. But twice in a matter of a week, both of my sisters mentioned the labels that were placed on us. And I said, I think it's time. I think it's time. I've been dabbling with it for about a year and a half now. I actually was talking the book out to myself. When I was in a car, when I was by myself, I would just talk the chapters. And it was something that was sort of out there. I would put it on paper. I had bits and pieces of it all over the place. And a couple of weeks ago, I said, it's time to bring it together. And I really buckled down and I said, especially when they brought it up to me, um, one of my sisters said, you think you're smarter than us. And it was, in a fit of anger. But it really hit me hard. And I said, I never said I was smarter than anybody. I said, that was something that you were told. And, it was a very moving, upsetting moment for both of us. But when we finally talked through it, she said, you're right. I don't, it didn't come from me. It came from a place where we were just kind of brought up that way. Um, one of my sisters, we kind of joked about it recently. She was the sporty one and she stopped sports at 18. So it kind of leaves you with an identity crisis to say, well, then what am I? And, I felt like I have an 18-year-old now, and we really tried hard never to put labels on them. And, did we fail? Probably at times. Every parent feels like they failed at a point, but I've really tried to go completely opposite of that smarty mentality. And, um, yeah, and it was sort of that moment in my life that I felt I just needed to do it, not just for me, but for anybody out there that felt stuck.
Wow, that's amazing. So, now, how did writing this book change you?
It was really vulnerable. It was, I've always been outspoken. I've always been, you know, another label loud. Um, I've always been a fierce advocate for others, but I've never advocated for myself. And I've always felt like I had to keep that to myself and not share it with the world. And so it's definitely changed me in that way because I'm always the funny one. I'm always the one that's cracking jokes and with a smile on my face. So I think people never realized how much it impacted me, including my family. I mean, I've tried to tell them, but I don't think they really fully grasped the amount of impact that it had on my life. And so it was, it's not for me, it's not vulnerable for the rest of the world to see it. It's more, what is my family going to think? And, I tried, I did not put anyone's name in on purpose. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. It's a matter of society, right? It's the kid in the school that makes a comment because somebody is overweight or somebody doesn't look the way they should look. Um, and that's the vulnerable part. It's really, what's my family going to think? Um, but I'm really glad I did it, and I think, I asked my kids if they were going to read it. And my son, of course, said, I don't read books. And he said, well, maybe I'll read it over the summer because I think I have to read a book, is what he told me. And I said, okay, that would be nice if you read your mom's book. Um, but I do hope they read it because I think they would understand me a little bit more and why I've been so adamant about discussing weight and discussing size. And I really am against it in our house. We always talk about eating healthy. And that I've been like that since they were born. So it's
Yeah,
an
that's a
open
whole
book.
generation that we kind of missed out on
Yeah.
because, there were, in my opinion, back in the day when I was growing up, I don't know about you, but things were rationed a little bit
Yeah.
more. like fruit, the healthier foods. First of all, our choices, there weren't as many choices
No.
as there are now.
Mm-mm.
And that's a good thing and a bad thing, I think. Um, and I think that that was a big part of it. And then having those labels and then having to feel that you have to do something or else you'll always be that label. And I have to tell you that, it's very freeing when you can finally say that I want to do this for me, not for anybody else, but
Yeah.
I want to do it for me. And there will come a point where you will feel that way. To all my listeners that are listening, there is a point where you will feel like, I just want to do this for me, not anybody else.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
You do, and I think I've gotten to that point in my life. I do have a wonderful support system now, and a wonderful husband, and kids that support me, and really amazing friends. Um, and it gets to that point, right? And that's the point I'm at in my life where I feel like I can do this, right? I am, this is about me. And, I mentioned in the book, like I always say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, but I don't always follow that myself. But that's what I tell everybody else. So it was time to put the oxygen mask on myself. And I knew that it would help other people. I knew that I was not the only one feeling this way. And that was really important to me.
Oh, for sure. For sure, you're not the only one.
No.
No. So, this is the mindset playground. So, I have to ask you, what was your mindset? What was going through your mind while you were writing this book?
It was emotional. It was really emotional. It was, um, I'm a big advocate of therapy. I'm a big advocate of talking, and I talk a lot. But putting it on paper was really hard. And the last chapter, especially, I wrote a letter to my younger self. I wrote it over and over and over again. And I cried and I read it and I had my husband read it and I sent it to my two best friends to read it and they cried. Um, and they both been through a lot of the same things I've been through. And one of my best friends has been with me for 30 years and she's seen me go up and down in my weight and I've seen her go up and down in her weight. And, we've been on this journey together. And it's hard. It's hard seeing that. It's hard looking at pictures. It's hard, going through this over the years and thinking you're by yourself and you're alone. And um, going through some of the stories, and, a lot of them are happy. A lot of them are, bringing me back to elementary school where it was really happy. And, then going into some of the darker times where you're like, how did I survive this? Like, this is crazy. And thinking about kids today and thinking, there's no way I would have survived the internet bullying and all of that stuff. I don't know if I was that strong. Um, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did to be able to be an advocate today. And, I fight for a lot of kids, and I'm a very big advocate for especially our teens, who don't necessarily have that voice. Um, but putting it on paper and actually seeing it is really hard.
Now, I know that you mentioned to me when we were talking before this interview that it was really tough pushing the send button.
Oh yeah.
So, how did you overcome that fear?
Mm. Um, I thought about my kids. I thought about what I would tell them to do, and what I preach all the time. I'm always saying, stand up for yourself. I'm always saying, have a voice. And I thought about my sisters and what it did to them too. I always kind of felt like this was me and my story, but I don't think it is. I think it's for them too. I think we've all gone through it, and we all did it, right? And years ago it was everybody had their place in a family, and I think it's probably still true today. You know, everybody's got their space that they play in a family role. But even in society, we always put labels on people. And, you know, I hope that we kind of look at that a little differently because it really does have a profound impact on people. So I really, as much as it was fearful pressing the button and then getting the proof of the book, and you're like, oh God, this is real. The book came to me and I thought, I can't believe this is like in my hands. Like this is actually a thing. Um, you know, and Amazon makes it so easy to publish a book. And I couldn't believe that. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And the more and more I put it out there and the more feedback I got from people, the more I was so grateful that I press send. I really was.
Wow, that's great. So, how's it going so far?
It's interesting. You know, it's somebody at work said to me, I was speaking to a published author, and I was like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, and I don't know if I'm just downplaying it. Um, but they want me to speak about it at work because, you know, we do talk a lot about advocating for yourself. I actually reached out to my elementary school because did play a big part in my life. And I hope I'll be able to speak to the kids there. That would be like a full circle moment to me. But I'll make it happen. I happen to know some people that are involved in the schools there. Um, and you know, for me, if I can make a difference in one teenager's life that feels like nobody sees them and they need to hide, and that would be that would be the best thing that could happen right now. Um, you know, we'll see what's to come after this. You know, for me, it's the starting point. You know, I was also kicking off my business with coaching on top of my day job, you know, and I think the funny response that most people give me because I'm so busy in my life is, how did you have time to do this? And I always say to people, I try to make time for things that are important to me. You know, it's my nights. I spend time at night just kind of trying to decompress. And to me, writing was a decompression. It's part of my journaling, it's part of my day. I read a lot, and so for me, it was important for me to get my feelings out there. And that's the
Hmm.
way it started. This wasn't about writing a book, it was just getting my feelings on paper.
Right. So, what were you going to do once you had all those feelings on paper?
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure, honestly. And then I was like, I could do a book on this. I really can. And you know, I'm even thinking about book two, actually. And you know, I there's a lot of neurodiversity in my life, like a lot of it. And so, you know, I actually um, have thoughts on how that could look next, but, you know, let's one step at a time. Um, but yeah, I felt like this process has been so smooth so far that it's just something I feel like I have the confidence now in being able to do this. You know, I do a lot of public speaking at work and I'm out there. Um,
Yeah.
speak a lot, which is great. And I've got the forum to do it. And so this was sort of like an extra thing that I was able to accomplish.
So, what do you do? What is your
Ooh, that's my
job?
day
We
job.
need to talk about that.
So I actually had a big pivot in my career. I started out, my whole career was in accounting. I did taxes. I worked with people internationally for 25 years. I always worked with expats, so people that worked overseas came here from other countries to work, and I did their taxes. And what I loved about it was learning about people's lives and talking to people when they were making these crazy decisions to go live other places with their whole families, which was hard, especially when they had kids and they had to uproot their children and start a new life in another country for a couple of years. And so yes, I did their taxes, but I always feel like I had to also do that human touch and talk to them about, okay, is this the right time? Is this the right, you know, how are you going to acclimate them into these other countries? And I loved that human element part, but the number piece, it was okay. And so about 5 years ago, I did advocate for myself and I said, we all know that the talent development piece that I do is really where I belong. And I advocated to go into learning and development. And so I
Wow.
really lucky, and they believed me that that was where I belonged. And so my company allowed me to transfer into a learning and development role. And I started in our Americas practice, and then I got pulled into our global practice. So I support 20,000 people globally. Um, and then another opportunity came to me where they said, would you like to get your coaching certification? And I said, this is amazing. I coach people already, so let's go. And within 8 months, I had my coaching certification. And then another light bulb moment went on. And I said recently, I really enjoy coaching people that are neurodivergent. And that's actually where you and I met in this program. And I said, it was something hit me over the head where I said, I really want to focus on neurodivergent coaching. And so I've been coaching a lot of people who are either on the spectrum or have ADHD, and a lot of them were late diagnosis. So they did not, they suspected, but they didn't get diagnosed as children. And so they're dealing with it as adults, trying to figure out and navigate the corporate environment, especially, um, and trying to help them find their strengths. And so, again, moving beyond the label, moving beyond the t-shirt, and trying to figure out how to make sure that they're advocating, they're, navigating executive functioning in a lot of cases, and those, um, a lot of their social aspects, and trying to navigate that. But really focusing in on their strengths, because one of the things that, we find a lot is it's what you can't do rather than what you can do, and not letting that label affect their lives. So, yeah, I'm continue to make pivots. Um, I figure I've been at the same company for 13 years, and what's kept me there is three roles, three different roles. And, I want to keep learning and growing till I decide that it's time to retire. And that's a long way away. So I might as well keep challenging myself. And so, yeah, it's kind of where I'm at
Wow.
now.
That's amazing. And then it's so amazing how this is leading you into a whole new area. And I know that we've talked about you doing a podcast,
Yeah.
which is so exciting.
Yeah.
And I think you're learning from the best. So,
And
but
you even gave me a name of it, didn't you?
yes, I love it. You have to do Beyond the T-shirt podcast.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, you should go in and check and see if there is one out there with that name because I think it would be perfect.
Yeah.
And especially for what you're doing with the second part of it, beyond, the spectrum and everything, that
Yeah.
would be good too, beyond the spectrum. So
Yeah. Coming
I'm
up with
just
names
full of
already.
ideas. Oh, but anyway, well, that's so amazing. And who knows, maybe even a documentary, or
Mhm.
who knows what's going to come out of this. So that's really great. And I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to reading that book. And I am looking forward to your next book. Not that I'm pushing it, but hey, I'm going to give you a goal. How's that? A challenge,
Yeah.
a little goal for you to. Besides, you're going to want to come back on the Mindset Playground and talk about your next book.
100%. No, I already know what it's going to be. So we definitely, it's a good challenge, and a challenge accepted. How about that?
Okay. So before I close this interview, I always ask my guests
Okay.
for three golden nuggets to leave the audience with.
Uh,
So, yes, that's my little surprise question. So, go ahead and give us your three golden nuggets that you would like everybody to know.
this is easy for me because in my one of the things that I mention in the book is that I did have thyroid cancer. And when I was 10 years in, I got my first tattoo. after I had the diagnosis, after I was fully cleared. From 5 to 10 years, I kept saying, I'm going to get a tattoo. So 10 years, I finally did it. And since then, I've got a few more, and they all tell a story. So the first story is everything happens for a reason. And I truly believe that. Sometimes you don't know what that reason is, but it happens. The other one says you are enough, and I believe that too. It's taken me a long time to believe that, but I believe it. Um, and the other one is put the oxygen mask on yourself first because you will be no good to anybody else if you don't.
I really like that saying. That is amazing that you have that saying.
Yeah, it's in
So,
the book too. I had to get it in there somewhere and I was trying to figure it out, but I got it in there.
oh, yeah. Well, that's really great. Well, I am so glad that you took the time to come and play with me on the Mindset Playground.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yes. So I will put all the information in the description below your podcast, of course, on how to reach you, how to get in touch with you, and how to get a copy of the book. And what's the name of the book again? Do you have a copy of it there?
Beyond your the t-shirt, and it is not right next to me because I'm waiting for my copy.
Okay. No problem. Well, thanks again. And I look so forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank
This
you.
is really great.
Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. Are you enjoying the Mindset Playground? Well, smash that share button and send it to all of your friends and family because you never know who needs to hear the messages that we have. And visit my website at luannhunt.ca for the full schedule of the Mindset Playground. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. I can't wait to see you on the Mindset Playground.